This is the Toby LaGrange Show. With who else? Toby LaGrange. And it starts right now.
On the corner of State Highway 10 and Tilboro Road in Ephrata, New York, sits a small piece of land that has made a big impact on the Northeast motorsports scene. Located in south-central Fulton County, a couple hundred yards west of Caroga Creek, sits a small racetrack that bears the name of the creek that runs alongside of it. The Caroga Creek Raceway, or Speedway, depending on who the promoter was at the time, hosted weekly kart racing for multiple generations. It wasn't just karts. The track also brought slingshots to the area for the first time and became the Capital District home of the scaled-down modified division until the Glenridge Motorsports Park opened its gates just after the turn of the century. The quads and bikes that many in the area had been used to seeing further up State Highway 10 at Royal Mountain competing in Wednesday night Supercross action also turned many laps over the years at the track alongside the creek. During its prime, the karts would pack the place on Friday nights. With its tight confines and long-gone, one-of-a-kind grandstand, the amount of talent that came through the pit gates and ultimately went on to bigger things in the racing world is immeasurable. I started going there as soon as I graduated from high school in 1997 and could drive myself. Even though I spent most of my childhood growing up in the mountains of Bleecker, New York, my focus growing up was on the dirt modifieds and not those much smaller racing machines. Looking back, I really should have made my way over to Caroga Creek much sooner. When I first started going, I would grab a drink and head on over to my favorite position, just off the outside of Turn 2, where the backstretch began. I cannot tell you how many thousands of pictures I took from there from the late 1990s until the early 2000s. I really wish I still had them. A decade plus later, I would return to take some video and do some interviews, and then eventually take over the announcing duties for a season and a half. Speaking of announcing, who could forget the round man with a square deal, Clancy Miller, behind the mic every Friday night? I'm not saying he was Jim King, Shane Andrews, or Danny Martin, but he certainly was the voice of Caroga Creek. It was never the same without him there. Unfortunately, as the old saying goes, all good things come to an end. And in the case of Caroga Creek, it appears that it certainly has. I'm not going to get into who's at fault or who mismanaged what. That is water that has made its way down the accompanying creek already. What I will say is that it's a dirty, crappy shame that this track is not only closed, but looks more like a deserted junkyard than a once thriving avenue for future stock car racers, and a very inexpensive form of entertainment and fun for many in the area each week. The track could thrive today with the right financial backing and someone who knows what they're doing managing it. While kart racing is pretty far down the downward slide, there are other ways that the track can thrive. Between karts, slingshots, bikes, quads, RC cars, BMX racing, tractopulls, and flea markets, the track can keep out of the red ink. Not to mention, if some of the fields around the track could be purchased to allow for the track to be expanded, then divisions like mini sprints, micro sprints, and even 4 cylinders could be added to the program. The ifs and coulds, though, seemingly are more than anyone is willing to take on at this point. And really, who could blame them? The video that you have been watching is of the more recent Caroga Creek, not the one I first attended. The video that you will see here momentarily is from a few weeks back when I gathered up my family and we headed out to see the current condition. We stayed on the road since it is posted private property, but just from the road you can tell how bad of shape it is in. I have heard that it is now for sale, so hopefully someone with some financial backing, common sense, and the goodwill of the sport will take it over, and not relegate the name Caroga Creek to just another small country creek.